Welcome, my friends, once again to another episode of the Jammin' Dude Show. It's been a long time. I've been working long hours, and I have been sick as a dog ever since the day after the Fates Warning show 2 weeks ago. So, finally made it back, and I'm here to give you my full-on review of what turned out to be one of the greatest shows I have ever seen. Need to once again introduce my wintertime co-host. Yvonne Jackson is on vacation during the winter. He is replaced by the hot buttered rum. And my brother-in-law gave me the idea Slick, but I expounded upon that, and this is now Slick Fat Marley. So, and by the way, I'm going to post a link on how you can make your own hot buttered rum mix. I actually got the recipe from Emerald, but it's really easy to put together, and even though you can buy the stuff in the stores, they often stop selling it right after New Year's, and it stays cold through February. So if you live in a place like I do, you want to continue to stay warm through the winter months. Anyway, the Fates Warning show. See, that's the wrong side. I got a VIP pass, and I got to meet the guys in the band, and yeah, I'm still wearing my shirt. Haven't even washed it yet. So, anyway, let me just start off by saying that one of the things that made this such a fantastic concert was never before in my entire life have I ever seen a 5-band show where every single band brought it to the table. I was blown away right out of the gate. The very first band, which... And there have been some really great opening bands. I've seen a few, even when I went to the Between the Buried and Me show. I met a bunch of great guys from Tacoma. Good post-rock band. I have seen some excellent opening bands in my time. But I do have to give this particular one, Graphic Light Theory, a cut above the rest. I think that may have been the first time that on the opening set, which was only like maybe a 20 or 30 minute set of a 5-band show, myself and my friend Chris, who was with me, we were just sitting there with our jaws on the ground. It reminded me a lot of Enchant, for those of you who are big fans of Enchant. Graphic Light Theory is absolutely stunning. One of the most amazing progressive rock bands I've ever heard, period. And I hope to be able to hear a lot more from them. But I talked briefly with the lead singer, Sean Thompson. Just a great guy. And he gave me a CD from one of his other projects. He and one other guy from Graphic Light Theory, possibly even 2 other guys, I think. They have this other project called Odd Logic. As I said, I've been sick and working extremely long hours. I have not listened to any music at all in like 2 weeks. And that's the longest dry spell I've had not listening to music since I was 6 years old. So, but I am going to be checking this out, and you will be seeing this on a CD review coming up within the next week or 2. Odd Logic, watch for them. But Graphic Light Theory was an amazing band, and if you're into Enchant, I strongly suggest you get on the web, find these guys from Seattle. They are unsigned. And Sean Thompson is, I've traded some emails with him, and he's just a great guy and an amazing talent as a lead singer and a musician, and I can't wait to check out his other project, Odd Logic. Next up was Custom. And I had never heard of Custom either. They were a little bit more straightforward hard rock. I almost want to say they hearkened back to, you remember when... right after hair metal hit in the late 80s and early 90s, there was almost like a backlash of more angry hard rock type of bands. Still very, very straightforward, blues oriented kind of, but just really in your face kick-ass rock and roll. And Custom was a little bit more along those lines. And I have to say, my front man of the night went to the lead singer of Custom. This guy brings it. That lead singer owned the stage. And there was no front man all night long. Not even Ray. As much as I love Ray, this guy, and I looked up his name. What a great name. Jacques Heartless. That cannot be real. Good stage name, Jacques. But that guy, you know, when you get a lead singer, sometimes you really look for somebody who has that swagger. And he really had it. He brought it, and he's a great frontman and a great singer. And if you're looking for more straight-ahead, kick-ass rock and roll, along the lines of almost like a garage Buck Cherry almost, look for a band from Seattle called Custom, because they absolutely rocked it. And I will be posting links to all these bands too, because I really think they all brought it. Next up was another one where I was so impressed I actually went out and got the CD, The People Now. Got a chance to talk to the guitar player. I think his name was John. I met so many people that night, and if I'm messing up your name, John, I really apologize. I had a great time talking to him, and what really blew my mind about The People Now, a little funky, really rocky. I almost want to say I felt like it was a little bit of a Faith No More, Coheed and Cambria, maybe even like some Mars Volta. But really off the cuff. But even more so than those bands, the lead singer was just a notch above the bands that I just mentioned. One of the things that can sometimes set people off about both the Mars Volta and Coheed and Cambria is the singers. And I thought The People Now had a lead singer that was far more... He's really somebody that's easy to listen to, and yet he gives a command performance at the same time. And the professionalism of the show, considering that this is an unsigned band, I mean, they had a synced up PowerPoint presentation going on behind the drum kit, and this is an opening unsigned act. So on some level, I have to say I love technology, because it gives a chance for these bands to be able to present themselves in a real professional manner. And this is another one where you can bet when I get a chance to listen to this CD from The People Now, you will be getting a review from me. There's already a song that I can think of in my mind where I don't know the name of it, but I'm sure I'll hear it on there. And you can bet when I figure out what song it is I'm thinking of, I'll be giving some glowing reviews for that. So next up was national opening act Artizan. And I've been trading some emails with Ty, the drummer. He is just a beast behind the kit. That guy plays his ass off. I could not believe it. And then, as you guys have seen, I also got a chance to talk to Seamus, the songwriter, one of the songwriters and the guitar players for the band. And great power metal band, and it was really a great next step to bring us into what would be the key performance of the evening, Fates Warning. There were just so many great bands, and again, let me just say, if anything made this the best concert I've ever been to, it was the depth of the performances leading up to Fates Warning. Because everybody, Graphic Light Theory, Custom, The People Now, Artizan, they all brought very high-level performances, and it was probably the most I've ever been blown away by bands I had never heard of. The sound was great at Studio 7. I really got to give a thumbs up. Some people have criticized... I've seen some people criticize Studio 7. I don't get it. To me, Studio 7 is absolutely one of the best all-age clubs in Seattle. You get great sound there and a lot more space to move around in than you do with some of the smaller clubs. So I really think any show at Studio 7... I would say absolutely go, because it really offers you a lot of room to move around in, and great sound and really great people too. So thank you to all the staff at Studio 7. I got there a little early. I brought everybody some donuts and some coffee, and I met some great people. And everybody that works there at Studio 7, they just do a bang-up job of putting on a great show for everybody that comes in the door. But then it came time for my friend Chris and I to settle into the key performance of the night, and that was Fates Warning. 25 years I've looked forward to this show. And I did get a chance to meet Ray and Jim in a meet and greet before the show. And I got a chance to tell Jim about what his music has meant for me ever since I was introduced to the band in 1984. And I even got a chance to share with him that I lost my father about 6 years ago. And that the song Still Remains, which Jim wrote about the death of his father, really helped me get through that dark period of time. So it was very important for me to communicate to that to him, and he couldn't have been nicer about it. But the set list was, I couldn't have asked for anything more. As a matter of fact, I had seen the European set list, and since it's not a spoiler anymore, the tour's now over, I think it was even better by one song than what the European set list was. They opened up with 1,000 Fires, went into Life in Still Water, which is probably my favorite song from Parallels. Then they moved up A Pleasant Shade of Grey Part 3 into earlier in the set, and then went into One from Disconnected, Another Perfect Day from FWX. They cut Down to the Wire. Down to the Wire had been an Inside Out song that they were playing on the European leg. That was not played. They then went into A Pleasant Shade of Grey Part 6. Pleasant Shade of Grey got good representation, which I was really happy about. Pieces of Me, good rockin' song from Disconnected. Then they played another new one, I Am, one of my favorites from the new album. Then they went into the 11th Hour, and the crowd really got into it. Point of View from Parallels again. Another new song, Firefly. And then Through Different Eyes, which was the oldest that they went back. Then they did A Pleasant Shade of Grey Part 11. And then they actually did Wish from FWX, which was not played on the European tour. And I was really impressed. I was happy about that. And then they ended the regular set with Monument. And then encored with a slightly truncated version of Still Remains. They didn't have any keyboardist with them, so they had to cut out the entire opening section and just open the song with the strong riff that opens up at about 2 or 3 minutes in on the studio version. And actually, now that I'm looking at the list that I actually copied and wrote down, something that's occurred to me just now is I believe they actually played a small portion of Quietus. I can't remember now. Maybe my friends that were there can help me out, but I think they played a short section of part of the Ivory Gate of Dreams. But maybe I'm just imagining that. But I was so impressed with Ray's performance, considering that it was the final show of the tour. Ray was just on all night long. And he didn't try to sing things out of his range. He just changed things to his lower range that was comfortable for him. And the harmonies he hit were just incredible. They were gorgeous. So you didn't feel like he was straining all night long. He always stayed in his range. He changed it in a really beautiful way and just made the entire song like butter. The Jim, of course, brought his A game. I didn't hear a single slip up all night long. So, after 25 years of waiting, I can honestly say that Fates Warning did not disappoint, and it was one of the. It will go down in my life as one of the greatest shows I have ever seen in my entire life. And hanging out and just talking to the people and being in the positive vibe and getting to meet somebody from just about every single band and having such a positive experience. I want to give a shout out and a thanks to Ty, Seamus, Ray, and Jim from Fates Warning. I want to give a thanks to Johnny from the People Now. I want to thank Sean Thompson from Graphic Light Theory for all all their kindness and for giving us such a fantastic and incredible show. And did I mention Seamus and Ty from Artizan? Again, just great show, great guys. And Seamus, you can see a lightning round question with Seamus from Artizan right here on this page. And he actually sat down, we just talked for about 20 minutes after that lightning round question was over, and I just couldn't believe what a down-to-earth and really cool guy he was. So thanks again for such a great show and such a great time. One funny story I have, it was probably about halfway through the Fates Warning show. I'm there with my friend Chris, and I'm hoping he'll back me up on this, although this is just my version of events. You know, we were hanging out upstairs and we were kind of covering for each other because it was kind of crowded along the rail. We're up in the balcony and we've got really choice seats just to the right up on the rail. And we're there and we're at a point where we're kind of trading off and we're holding spots for each other. You know, if one of us wants to go get a shirt or go to the bathroom, and so we've kind of been trading off. But it's all the same people there and everybody knows, you know, everybody knows everybody around us, and they know when somebody's there and when somebody's just gone to the bathroom really quick and coming back. So for the most part, people were really nice about holding spots for people and not crowding people out if they just had to duck out for a second. Everybody was being really nice about it. Well, there was this one guy who, as soon as I left just before Fates Warning so that I could go to the bathroom just before the show started. And when I came back, this guy who had been standing next to me, he just took my spot. So I didn't want to interrupt the show, and I didn't really want to confront him either, so granted I was probably being a little passive-aggressive, but I tried to muscle my way in. I figured if I didn't mean to crowd out my friend Chris. That was not my intention. My idea is that, just like with everybody else, you know, when we came back, I figured the guy would move because that's what everybody else had been doing when Chris and I had been going back and forth for the entire concert. And these people had been there. They knew me. They had seen Chris, and they knew that we had those spots. So when I muscled my way in, my buddy Chris kind of got to feeling crowded, so he backed off. Well, I tried to kind of shove my way over so that Chris could see. I wanted him to be able to see, and I was thinking to myself, isn't this guy going to take a hint? So I'm kind of trying to, you know, get my way in there and still leave a gap next to me so that Chris can see by me. And I'm sitting there and I'm really getting into the show, and I'm really thinking that this guy is hopefully just going to think that this isn't worth it. He knows I was there. He knows that's my spot. But eventually it came to a head. What ended up happening is that I guess it was really dark, and I mean, I knew the guy from the black leather jacket, but I didn't really get a good look at him, but I knew he had been there with his girlfriend. They had kind of been standing behind us. And I'm pretty noticeable, you know, in my dude sweater, right? So I'm sticking out like a sore thumb, and most of the people that are around, they know whom I am, and they've seen me. But eventually it did come to a head, and the guy did turn around, and he got in my face and pretty much threatened to kick my ass. And at first I looked at him, and when I turned around, I came face to face with
Machete.
And so I'm starting to second guess this for a second because, you know, I'm 44 years old and I'm a tired old fart. And I'm way too sore from abusing my body for most of my life as a construction worker to even think about mixing it up with somebody who's twice my size. I'm having too much fun. So when the guy finally decides he's had enough, I did what any guy my age would do. I turned as yellow as a very famous brick road. I quietly held up my dignity, and I peed my pants and ran away like a little girl. And I slowly walked away with my head held high. I wanted to be a man instead of a munchkin.
We represent the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild, the Lollipop Guild.
After this had happened, I decided to go ahead and just say, look, this isn't worth it. Chris, you take the spot, I'm in, and I'm out of here. Maybe his girlfriend wanted to see him intimidate an old man with a bad back and an ugly sweater. So I went ahead and went downstairs where I thought maybe I could get a better view and give this guy a chance to cool off. By the way, I offered to buy him a beer, and he told me to F off. So I have my piece. I had a better time that night than he did, obviously. What really makes it funny was I was downstairs about 10 minutes later, just because, you know, who wants to sit next to bad vibes? And 5 minutes later, he and his girlfriend walked out of the concert. Early! Was it really worth fighting over the spot, dude? But that actually worked out really well because I got to sit at stage right over next to Jim when they ended the show with Still Remains. And after the conversation that we had had about losing our fathers, when he was closing it up, he looked right at me and pointed at me, and we had a moment. And by the end of the show, the good vibes were back. And so, all in all, I had a fantastic time. To my buddy Chris from the Mike Portnoy Forum, I say thank you, and I'm looking forward to hanging out with you again at the next one. And it was a great show, and again, you'll be hearing more from these guys, Odd Logic and the People Now. And I'll be posting my reviews of these two CDs in the next upcoming weeks. I hope everyone who was there enjoyed it as much as I did. Everybody, please keep rocking. Stay safe, and if you see me there, feel free to come up and say hi. Some people did come up to me, some people from the bands mostly, but there were some people coming up to me. They recognized me in the sweater, and I thought that was pretty cool, that they were coming up to me and kind of going, dude, you're that guy from the show. So, already seeing some people coming up and recognize me as the J-Dude. So, thank you for all who have been tuning in and watching. And, hey, we'll see you at some upcoming shows. Take care.
Machete.